What a powerful voice. We were speaking of this man earlier for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
He's a supreme, what we call storyteller. Oracle. Griot, if you will. Actor, director, producer. He's masterful in his craft. We know this for a fact. Educated at Juilliard and NYU's Tisch School of the Arts.
Ow.
That man paid some money. My daughter graduated from Tisch. I know it. He been working to pay off those student loans ever since. I already know what he's going through.
Maybe he had a scholarship.
Maybe he did have a scholarship. I don't know. That man been writing his ass off since we talked to him last time. He got to pay these damn bills. But it's an honor to have him on here. We were talking about some of his prowess. DB, if you don't mind, man, some of the things that we spoke about, his excellent works in his past.
Well, it's because of that, man, that I was so attached to this movie called Coming to America that I had to go and buy Prince Akeem's jacket.
That's too hard.
Oh, my gosh.
The actual hat that he wore.
Oh, my gosh.
The McDowell's shirt.
I got that.
I got the McDowell's hat, you know what I mean? Like, and it was funny because I think I might have mentioned this last time when you called in when we spoke to you. My nanny, this woman who used to babysit me and Aaron, who was just up here visiting, was in Coming to America. She was in the subway scene. You weren't in it, but it was the scene when Akeem and Lisa are arguing back and forth, and there's the three people who keep looking back. She was the black woman in that scene.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is going to sound funny, but you look a lot like my dad. So when I was really young and I would watch the movie, I'd be like, wow, my dad has the same car, mustache, hair, and everything. So
Hold on. Your dad had the Jerry curl?
he had more of a fro. It wasn't. Maybe it was. I don't know. But
Was it curl adjacent?
Yes, very much so. Very much curl adjacent. But yeah, we're talking about when he played Daryl in one of the, I would say, arguably the greatest comedy of all time, Coming to America, which is a classic in my book. But I mean, he's here to talk about this new book, pun intended, that is called The Laws of Annihilation from the Martyr Maker series. Please welcome. He's already a citizen of Sway in the Morning, but he's a VIP citizen and somebody we all love.
Yes.
Eriq LaSalle.
Eriq LaSalle is here. Hey, good to have you in person, man.
Yeah. Glad we did it.
Yeah, man. It's pretty fascinating having you here. Our last conversation, you said so many profound things that just stuck to me. One of the things you said, I'm curious to where you are now. One of the things we talked about when we talked back in 2021, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
I said, what are you working on? You said, I'm working on the third installment of my crime series.
Crazy.
And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're celebrating that.
Right.
Laws of Annihilation.
Wow.
Okay, we're going to talk about this. And another thing we talked about was your concerns. And you said, you're more concerned about the present and the future than you are the past.
Right.
You recall saying that?
Yeah.
And at that time, this was your future.
Right.
So what's on your list now? What are your concerns today?
Well, I've been building this thing for 10 years. So it's been like pushing. I've got the next book already that I'm working on. So for me, it's been really about this franchise empowerment. It's been about, I think like I've been talking for years about Black empowerment, which means for me, ownership. And so, I didn't set out just to write a trilogy. I didn't set out to write. And I wanted it to be a novel. I didn't want it to be biographies. I take nothing. Writing any kind of book is hard, very difficult. But I wanted it to be all about my imagination. And you said a key word, a word that really means a lot to me is craft.
Yeah.
Like craft is, so studying the craft of writing and so being able to put together this thing, and we've got aspirations. The goal of this is to turn this into a movie series, to turn it into a streaming series. So that's ownership. You know what I mean? And that's the type of empowerment. Like, again, you talk about some Black people being rich.
Yeah.
And some people being wealthy.
Yep, big difference.
You get wealthy from ownership. And I'm not just talking about financial wealth. I'm talking about creative, artistic, like this is my freedom. This is what I get to do. So this thing saved me. We're going through this horrible strike, man. That's been, 6 months now, right? So people didn't have stuff to do. I fortunately threw myself into the book. So when you ask, like, what's the focus? This thing has sort of just created its path for me.
Okay.
And so I'm following that. So yeah, so it feels good, man.
That's what that's what heaven is to me. You know, when you're able to live in your purpose, and I truly feel like that's what that is. When you talk about black empowerment and proprietorship, these are phrases I quite often use. You know, with that wealth that you can acquire from these type of projects, from your craft, what would you want to do with it?
Well, here's the thing. I'm in a unique position because 9 times out of 10, you see a movie a book that's been turned into a movie. 9 out of 10 times people go, the book was better.
Yeah.
Right.
That's because an author writes a book, someone gives them a big check, and I ain't hating on this at all, but somebody gives them a big check, they turn over the rights to whoever. Now that person, that entity has to interpret what this author meant, and a lot gets lost in that interpretation. Well, I'm in a unique position because being a writer, being a director, being a producer, the goal is I co-write the script, I direct it, I produce it. So I'm protecting that vision.
Yeah.
And that's rare that people turn that vision over to someone and it's like having this beautiful baby and turning it over to someone and saying, okay, raise it and I hope it has my values. Well, no, the baby's going to have the values of the person that's raising it. And so you hope you get it right. So for me, I feel like I'm in a unique position to be able to give my baby my values.
Amen.
You're right. I'm curious, like when I think of you as a director, as well as a writer, I'm looking at the likes of the Ava DuVernays and the Lena Waiths and a lot of folks who have come up in recent time have done extremely well. Is there a fellowship going on with black directors and writers that you're a part of?
Well, I mean, look, there are more of us.
Yeah.
And so I've got my squad of people, and that we fellowship, man. We pour into each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because like there have been people that I've been a mentor to, and when I was on Chicago PD, brought in some cool directors. There's a young brother by the name of Carl Seaton who's like a little brother to me. And so it's been cool to mentor a brother like that. But I remember one day he came over and we were just, chopping it up. And we were kind of getting down on some people we were getting down on ourselves because some people were like blowing up and they were doing these things. And we were like, they're not that great. And he just turned to me and said, you know what, brother? We're blue collar artists. And I was like, I looked at him and it just meant we just do the work. We're not in it for whatever. We're not, this person has this deal, this person. I love the work. And so once he helped me to redefine who I was, and that determines how you look at your purpose and so your purpose might not be all the glitter and glam of what somebody else's journey is. My journey is my journey.
Yeah.
And when I understand that my journey is that as a blue collar, that blue collar ethic, like that work ethic. Like, you think about how our generation, like for the most part, most of us are first generation successful in this level.
Yeah.
For the most part, I can't speak for everybody in it, but for the most part,
Right.
that's how we are, people. So we're first generation. So we don't have, but now we're creating that legacy. And so when you have that, man, it's just, and to say, look, just do the work. Focus on the work. One thing I was like, I don't want to be considered, when I first started this 10 years ago, I do not want to be considered a celebrity author. I don't want. I want to be considered a good author. I don't even necessarily want to be considered a black author. Let's. And what I mean by, I want to be very clear. I don't want to be limited by that, because that's what happens in this industry. They start going, oh, well, that's a black author. What is a black author? You want to be considered a good author.
Yeah.
And so you don't have white authors being, oh, that's a really good white author.
Right.
Wow, that's a great author. And so when you start choosing your adjectives and how you want to be defined and what you try, but you got to come from a place of craft. You have to prove yourself, because at the end of the day, celebrity might get me an interview. Celebrity might get me so far, and also might hold me back because people have preconceptions. Oh, that's just, he can't write.
Yeah.
Same thing they said about me when I was a director. When I wanted to direct. Oh, he's an actor. He can't. And then all of a sudden, go, wow, he's a really good director. Then I became an executive producer. Oh, he can't executive produce. Oh, wow, he's a really good executive producer. So you control that. But my thing is, I want the adjectives to be, this is a solid writer, this is a solid author.
I love that, man. Eriq LaSalle, give this man a round of applause right here.
Yeah.
Dropping gems, HB.
I know. I love it. Eriq, thank you again for being here today.
Loving it.
No, we're loving having you here. Talking about everything you was talking about, I can't help but to think about Tyler Perry and all that he has been able to do when you talk about ownership. And I had a chance to visit Tyler Perry Studios, and I was telling Sway and Tracy and everybody here when I got back, I just kept going, wow, because I remember the plays here in New York City that were in the small theaters and in the small places. I remember all the work that he talked about doing. How rare then, just based on what you were saying and how hard it is the air that he's in, just owning this big studio where now game shows are being done, films are being shot, television shows. It's like phenomenal. Maybe the first of its kind for a
Well, definitely. Yeah, I mean, people have been doing things. You have to realize, like, look, back in the day, you had Sidney Poitier who helped form the studio back in the day. And don't get me wrong. I mean, what Tyler is doing is what Tyler is doing. I think the most important thing here is this. You never know, A, where your journey takes you, and you never know who becomes a part of your journey. So you look at something like what Tyler is doing, it's affecting hundreds. Thousands of people.
That's
you know
what
what I'm saying?
I
So, but
said,
you know,
yeah.
as you start off with the journey, I didn't have the frame of references when I was growing up to say, oh, I want to be like this actor, this. I didn't have that frame of reference. So what my journey is now, I'm going back to my hometown of Hartford, Connecticut on Friday to do an event. People get to see, wow, this guy came from where I come from. He looks like me. But when I start my journey, it's a very selfish journey. It's a journey about, wow, I love arts. I love storytelling. You don't always know that it's going to impact the world. It's going to impact your community. You do try to handle yourself with dignity and respect. You know, that's how I was raised. But now being an African American author, and in this particular genre where there aren't a lot of African Americans, so now we get to see more and more. And people are like, wow, if he did this, then wow, why can't I do it? He looks like me, he talks like me, he's from me, he
understands the language.
He code switches like me.
Yeah, it's real.
He's like, but you understand, wow, I've seen this person navigate. I wish, and maybe I don't know, maybe I wasn't smart enough at the time. I wish I had more examples that I could have, because look, as a young black man, you know, you're trying to define yourself when you're in your young 20s, and it's hard. You know what I mean? And you need that positive. You need that someone's done it. Sometimes you need that, because you know why? Here's people don't tell you, and I use this word lightly. I don't want to say it about me, but I'm just using this as an example. People don't tell you, if you are considered to be a pioneer, it's lonely.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're the first one in.
AKA the only.
You're in the dark corners. Now you go in these dark corners and you leave light for the next person. So the next person sees it.
The trail a little easier.
But people don't tell you. It's lonely. You're trying to do something that, you know, listen, when I was growing up, people, you know, Hartford, Connecticut, they were like, dude, you can't be an actor. Why? Because there's nobody from this community that looks like you that's doing it. Well, I'm going to go do it. It was lonely. It was lonely at Juilliard.
Wow.
It was lonely being a minority in a predominantly white environment, but I was getting great training. It's lonely. And I'm not complaining.
No.
What I'm saying, I'm just simply, that's part of the thing, is we have to let people know, particularly younger generation, it's okay to be lonely. It might mean you're doing the right thing. It means you're going places that other people haven't been. Your job, once you're there, leave a little light, and that light shines, and then the next person leaves that light, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, I'm coming into a light room. I'm not coming into a dark room. But that's important for people to understand.
Thank you for that confirmation.
Let that breathe for a second, too.
For real.
Eriq LaSalle is here. Laws of Annihilation is the book. A Martyr Maker novel, award-winning author. He's here. We're going to talk about that momentarily. Tracy G, you want to dive in?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. You speak like a writer. You know, even what you just shared with us right now, I could see myself highlighting it in a book.
Wow.
I'm such an avid book reader, and so oftentimes I'll notice different trends. Like when I was younger, I felt like fiction was tremendous, and I would say maybe in the last 20 years, I would say personal development books have really, really taken over the self-help genre, so to say. But I do feel like we are in a fiction renaissance. I'm seeing a lot of people reach for novels. I think it's because people want a form of escapism, or with self-help, they've realized that no matter what, you can't get your life perfect.
Right.
And so they're in a place of acceptance. If you feel the same, why do you feel like we're going into a novel renaissance? And also, would you ever consider helping a celebrity author with their memoir?
Let me answer that backwards.
Okay.
No, not really. I'm proud of, again, I want to be very clear. You take nothing away from anyone that sets out to write a book.
Yep.
I don't care what kind of book you write, it's hard. I don't care if you're collaborating with someone. For me personally, it was important for me to write fiction. It was important that every single word in my book comes from me. I didn't have somebody helping me. I didn't have, that's important for me and what I'm trying to establish. But I think that, like, I don't, biographies, I'm a private person. See, this is another thing. I'm a very private person. And so how I get into other people's trauma and personal things, and sometimes there's a fine line. I thought Viola Davis did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. I mean, that book read to me like fiction. I was like, oh man, I was turning pages.
Yeah.
And she and I, we have the same publisher, but so I got an early copy. And so I was like, okay, and I see the empowerment that this sister took from this trauma and, how it made, but a lot of times, we have books when it's just like, let me give you the dirt on I don't really want to know your dirt. I'm sorry. So that's not where I lean.
It feels gossipy.
It feels gossipy for me. And again, I take nothing away from people. It's just not, it doesn't appeal to me. As far as fiction, I think fiction is growing. There's a brother that I want to give a shout out to, S.A. Cosby,
Okay.
who is killing the game. He's changing the game. So this is an African American author who's in this genre, who has elevated the game. And so now we're beginning to see these examples. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of a situation where some young brother or sister is sitting around going, I want to do this. Well, why? Well, Eriq LaSalle did it. S.A. Cosby did it. So-and-so did it. You got to think of, look at authors like Octavia Butler. Can you imagine when we talk about lonely pioneers, a black woman writing science fiction, and now it's more acceptable. It's still not as popular. And so this whole thing, what we're trying to do with this genre, and we're trying to show that black people and people of color and women, that we have attitudes about these genres. We should be able to write whatever genre, and so we have a lot to do because it's not equal yet.
Yes.
But we're in it, and I love being in it. So so I do hope fiction becomes more popular and more, and it does feel like that, and I love hopefully being a part of that. And I know that I'm within the circle of my books and my genre. We're doing it. And it feels good.
Yes, indeed.
Amen.
I love it. Eriq LaSalle is here. The book is Laws of Annihilation. A race war is brewing in New York City, and nobody can stop it.
Is that fiction? Is that
Right.
That's his book.
I know.
Well, is it fiction or is it not? Let me go on. In the summer in New York City, in a sweltering heat wave stifles the area, the entire city is on edge. Tensions between the Hasidic and black communities have been steadily escalating since a tragic incident a few weeks ago left a black teenager dead. Yeah. I feel like I read that in a Brooklyn newspaper last week or something, man.
And
you went there, huh?
Yeah, I thought it was, right now, and I don't get into politics in my book. I get into people. I get into communities. I get into ideology. I get into personal relationships. There's a weird thing. There's a weird thing going on. There's a thing called that. Well, I just started saying this. There's a thing that I call the algorithm of hate.
The algorithm of hate.
And if you study the algorithm of hate, you understand every cycle. You start understanding that hate happens in cycles. So we as black people, we can be like, it's been about 3 months since somebody got shot. Something about to go down. Like, and then a couple of weeks later, we look at the rise of anti-Semitism in this country, in the world. We look at the rise of anti-black, anti-women, like the homophobia, all of this stuff. There is an algorithm to that hate. So I write about things that I feel are topical, and relevant. And so, writing a book about, and I think I try to take an interesting perspective. And so you have the Jewish community, which has its issues and racism and anti-Semitism and all of that stuff. You have black people. So we technically, outside of the Native Americans, because we always leave them out, they are the most oppressed people, but the most popular oppressed people, which is a crazy thing to say, if you think about it, is blacks and Jewish community. And yet we have our differences with each other. And so I wanted to write, and in the book, one of my favorite parts, the B storyline, you take a racist Jewish guy, you imprison him, you throw him in a basement, chained next to 20 feet away from a racist black guy. And they hate each other, and they have reasons to hate each other. And yet, at some point, they got to realize the only way they're going to survive is to try to figure some stuff out to escape together. So it's kind of reminiscent of the Defiant Ones, because being an actor and growing up on and speaking the language of cinema, I let the influence of films come in and season my story. So it's not an accident that it's the hottest day. What does that remind you of?
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing, brother. There you go.
Right
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because we
man.
talk about those tensions,
Yeah.
and what Spike did with it was like, boom, this is so you knew some stuff was going to go down. So I wanted to take it even to the next level, that it's going to get deadly and it's going to be citywide. And so there's all this tension, and the black community is trying to find the kidnapped black guy. The Jewish community is trying to find the kidnapped Jewish guy. Who's holding them hostage? We start dealing with white supremacy, so these common enemies. So I write about topical things because I think it's really important. I think, to speak to your point, readers, on average, it takes about 2 weeks to read a book, on average. If you're going to give me 2 weeks of your life, I got to give you something that sticks.
Yes.
I got to give you something that you like, oh, snap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've read books, and 2 days later, I forgot characters. I forgot the book. No, I want my books to be soul food. I want my books to stick to your ribs.
Yeah, the characters feel like family.
They're like, exactly. Yeah, and you're like, oh, and you're like, oh, whether you like that person, whether you're scared of that person, whether you whatever or you sympathize with that person. And I don't make, like I said, political statements. I just do characters. I do the character of what would it be like to be this African American man stuck in this basement. What would it be like to be this Jewish American man, to be in this with your enemy, with what you've defined as your enemy. That's what I think resonates. And so now when we come back to the algorithm of hate, look at what's going on in the world right now. You know what I mean? I wrote this, we talked about this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
But the algorithm of hate almost puts it out at a time when it's at its highest, So,
Get the book Laws of Annihilation. That was one of my trouble words as a youth. I was
Annihilation?
so scared to say this in front of Eriq. I've been baffling this. I've been stumbling over. I haven't really fully said it. I don't know if you know that.
We're here to help you, though.
Peep that?
We got you.
This was my trouble word as a youth, bro.
Annihilation.
Annihilation.
There we go.
You said it.
I fixed it.
There you go.
DB, take us home, man.
Later.
So, Dad, Eric, sorry. No, I'm just joking. Last time we spoke, you said something that really stuck with me, and it was talking about, you told a story where somebody enlightened you about nobody seeks to do a bad job at anything. Right. And with that in mind, I wanted to ask you about the creative process, because whether you're, filmmaker, author, whatever it is, while you're doing something, you can add, take away, whatever it is. You have, a little bit of control anyway over that process. But it's the ending part, knowing when to stop and like, okay, it's done, it's enough, don't add anymore, just put it out in the world. How do you figure that out when it comes to writing and acting? Is it the same sort of like knowing when to stop, or is it different?
No, it's different, because as a writer, like I've had books. You got to realize I started writing this series 10 years ago, right? Actually 11, right? So, you write, you grow. And so like I come in here, I experience this new energy, I meet new people. You guys drop some science. Like that's what a writer does. They said that there are only two phases of being a writer. You're either writing or you're thinking about writing. Like that's your existence. When you're not writing, you're thinking about it, right? So, when you have that, ability, I think it's really important to absorb, and as you absorb, you grow. Right. And so I come in. So yeah, there are times where I go, "Oh man, that was great. Like I want to put that in a book." So at some point, you go, "It's done." Like you know what I mean? You got to let it go as an actor, but you can. There is value, and I want to get ahead of this. There is value in having a book complete, leave it alone, go do your thing, start working on another one, and have time to go back and season it with new things that you're absorbing, because you're in a new place of growth. And so as a writer, art should cost you, and you have to always determine how much does it cost. And so whether it costs your privacy, whether it costs a piece of your soul, whether it costs a piece of your trauma, whether it costs a piece of your joy, whether it costs a piece of your family. Art, because if you're going to go in, you're digging for truth. Truth costs. Truth costs. You know what I mean? You can't remain neutral. Truth can cost you your job. Truth can, particularly in this day and age, truth can cost. So you have to be fearless. And I think what separates artists, great artists from good artists, from great artists, or great artists from good artists, is the courage to, when I was as an actor, we had a thing that we used to always say, acting is having a private moment publicly. So, but I translate that as an artist. Art is having a private moment publicly, like this crazy stuff that we do at home when no one's looking.
Yeah.
Who has the courage to take that and put it out in the public and say the dysfunction that we all have in families and Thanksgiving and all that, to take that and put that into your work. No matter whether you're a rapper, whether you're a singer, whether you're a visual artist. Yeah. So you got to let it cost. And when it costs, that's what pays off. That's the payoff. And that's what I let it cost. And I put me in my books, and I'm okay with that cost, because the reward is greater.
I need to get that tattooed. Art costs. I like
Art
that.
costs. Eriq LaSalle, man. Hey.
Wow.
Beautiful.
I didn't know if it could get better in the flesh, but it just went 10x.
Next level.
Yes, next level, brother. You are always welcome in here.
Yeah.
Dude, I love, listen, I've been saying, I told you privately, but so we got together 2 years ago. I was just finishing my run. I was running Chicago PD, and I did my final episode, and one of my people called me up and said, "Hey, we got you an interview with Sway in the morning," and blah blah blah. I was like, "Oh, cool, whatever." Right. Didn't think too much about it. Had a bunch of interviews and knocked them out. I was like, "Hey, this is cool." And then I did my interview with you guys on the phone, and that was 2 years ago, man. And to this day, I keep saying, one of the best interviews. And then I'm going back 30 years when we started we started ER, because you got to realize I've been doing crazy interviews, but I got to tell you, and I'm not just shining, dude. This has been always like just you make people feel like fam. Your game is you don't reach for the lowest hanging fruit. When you do interviews, and I think that's really important, because that's reality TV, and everybody wants scandal, everybody wants the lowest. you have a way of you and your team. You guys have a way of actually allowing the artist to feel elevated and in a safe place, in a safe space. That is so important. And I think that, like I said, it was just kind of, here's my list of interviews. Okay, fine, whatever. This was the one. And so to be able to, I was so excited when you're going in to meet the team. I was like, this is the interview. So this has been the one that I've held on to for a couple of years. So I thank you guys. It really means a lot. Yeah.
Wow,
Eriq.
Yeah. Receive.
Wow, receive for
That
sure.
means so much.
Receive.
All real.
Shit,
All real.
Thank you, brother. I'm
We
ready.
got that recorded now too.
Oh, that's gonna be a sweeper.
Oh yeah.
That's a sweeper. That's every day. We're going to hear Eriq say
Every day.
these wonderful things about us. Thank you. And we're going to
Say.
thank you every single day we run that sweeper back.
Yeah.
And then I'm planning my retirement party after those words you just said. It don't get no better than
It
this.
don't get no better.
Thank you. It means a lot coming from you.
Absolutely.
We respect everything. We respect
Absolutely.
the craft, the whole nine. Laws of Annihilation.
Damn.
After the speech, you see what happens when you read your own press release this way? They give you the flowers and you drop them.
Yo, I just went back to the second grade right there, bro.
Try it again. You got it.
You got it.
Hold up.
Yep.
I can read everything else.
No, you can read that one too.
LaSalle conquers yet another medium. A really great read. That was Dick Wolf.
What's the title?
Laws of Annihilation.
Say it with confidence.
I was gonna do the kung fu overdub for you, like Annihilation.
Also, in celebration of this book, citizens, you have the opportunity to meet Eriq yourself, because he is going to be doing a meet and greet on Thursday, October 26, 7 p.m. at Human Grand Central here in New York. That is 1166 6th Avenue on the entrance of 45th Street. The tickets are really cheap, and you even get yourself a glass of Prosecco.
Let's
so
go.
you can clink
enough
with
for Heather
Eriq
to go.
LaSalle yourself.
So you have to say Heather will be
You
there.
can get the
front line.
information on his Instagram.
I love Prosecco.
Okay.
I do.
What's your Instagram, Eriq?
Eriq LaSalle.
Okay, boom,
Yeah,
bingo.
well, got a blue star, so that's the blue check
Verified.
because you know what, every week you get like an imposter, so that's, I'll just say that. Yes, Eriq LaSalle's got the
Eriq
check.
LaSalle.
All
Well,
the
thank you.
info
E.
is there.
Y'all doing a dinner? That's not a public thing. Or did you mention a dinner? or something?
Dinners are not public.
Oh, never mind.
Those are
All right.
invite only.
Okay.
Radio
Hello.
op.
Jeez.
Hello.
Sway heard food and just want to start sharing.
Eriq, who'd you come in here with this amazing, beautiful vision of loveliness?
This is Yona. Yona is my, oh my God, Yona is my grassroots
Put her on
ninja.
camera. Put her on camera.
Yeah, you got to get Yona.
You gotta get Yona on camera.
Yona. Yona
Can you get her
is it.
close up and let me tell you
Yeah.
the reason why? Why is she your grassroots ninja?
She's, when you're doing like a marketing campaign, because I self-published, so I got into the grassroots. Everything was grassroots. I couldn't afford whatever, so it was like boom. And so I always said, no matter what happens, even when we get a publisher, we want to maintain that grassroots mentality. And so my agent introduced me to Yona, and Yona is like, yo, I'm gonna get this. I'm getting this done. And I know, no, anybody saying no to me. No, I'm getting this done. And you just, but and a lot of people talk. A lot of people talk a good talk. This sister said, I'm like, okay, you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so
she just made Tracy work. She just handed Tracy work.
I was like, how did Tracy know that info? That's pretty good, Tracy.
I got listen. I got one for you. I got one for you. This is my, so my team is a bunch of sisters and
Love
agent, publisher,
Come on.
Yona, right? And I literally said, I'm single. I'm a single man, right? I literally said, if you want to accomplish something great, partner with a woman. If you want to accomplish something impossible, partner with a black woman.
There you go. There we go. In right there. The Eriq
T-drop.
LaSalle. We
T-drop.
out.